dark of the night, whispers of deceit.
Shadows dance on the walls.
Secrets they repeat. A shadowed figure
with eyes full of lies.
I have a good one too for next time.
Okay. Where no one dares to pry. Uncover the truth, let the lies come undone. Peel back the layers until the light is shown. Uncover the truth, let the shadows run. Break free from the chains and find the sun. Uncover the truth in the dead of the night, where secrets lie hidden like a whispered bite. Uncover the truth in the dim of the light, where betrayals take root in the heart of the fight. In the rain-soaked streets, under the moon's pale light, a crime.
All right, and here we are for Bloodlines and Betrayal with Detective Coach Schumann, and I am Lieutenant Cully. And we are today going over the famous trial of Alex Murdaugh, or the Murdaugh Murders, as Coach Schumann would like to call it.
That's right.
And the Murdaugh family, the most powerful family
and people may know it from the Netflix,
yes.
Right? So people may have seen it, just to refresh them where they may have seen it.
Yeah, it's been on Netflix. It's been on Dateline. It was the trial of the century in South Carolina, because the Murdaugh family pretty much ran the Low Country region of South Carolina. And the family's prominence led locals to call the 5-county district the Murdaugh County, because of the power they had from, it started with Randolph Murdaugh Sr., who's Alex Murdaugh's father, who established the law firm. It's now called the Parker Law Group, because Alex is no longer running it. He was a 4th-generation attorney, Alex. Randolph was the one who started the firm. I'm sorry, Randolph's father, so his great-grandfather, started the firm in 1920. So 3 members of the Murdaugh family served as 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Circuit solicitors for the 5-county area of South Carolina's Low Country region within the 4th judicial district. That's why they had so much power and influence in that county. The generations they served as prosecutors throughout the county. And then they switched over to opening a law firm. Randolph did, and they did strictly criminal cases. They were one of South Carolina's most prominent legal families, and they were featured everywhere. They were featured in magazines, newspapers, because of the decades-long control of the office of the solicitor, and because they opened their own law firm. They had so much power judicially and politically. You know, they rubbed elbows with all the top politicians, and judicially with the lawyers. They knew everyone. So what happened was everything started, the trouble, with Alex Murdaugh, his son, Paul. Alex Murdaugh had 2 sons. I believe Buster and Paul. Buster was the older one. He actually got kicked out of college for plagiarizing. And then his father paid 60 grand to the dean to have his son readmitted, and they upwardly adjusted his GPA. So, I mean, his son, the good son, was in trouble too. Paul was the younger son. He was a full-blown alcoholic, okay? And he would drink all the time. And the problem started, okay, the death of Mallory Beach. Okay, Mallory was Alex's friend's, Paul's friend's girlfriend. They all went to, there were four of them. They all went to a party on a boat. And Paul insisted on driving the boat. And Paul was underage. He went and he bought $50 worth of booze. They get on the boat, and you can see them. They're doing Snapchats, Instagrams of them just getting smashed. They went to an oyster roast, and they got there around like 8:30. It was a long boat ride. It was on a river, and they went to the oyster roast, had fun, drank. Paul, again, was funneling beer. They have him on video. Paul insisted on driving the boat back after the party. And then he insisted on stopping at a bar at 12:30. So nobody wanted to stop, but Paul's in charge. They stop at the bar. The five of them go. Paul and Connor Cook, who was a friend of his, went and they drank. Then they get back on the boat and they drive. Now, Paul is driving like a lunatic. He would leave the wheel. Everyone on the boat did not want him to drive. They were trying to say, like, let's get an Uber. Paul didn't want to leave his boat. They said, let someone else drive that's not as drunk. Paul refused. So Paul, like I said, was driving like a lunatic. He puts the engine full board, and they're going, and they slam into a bridge. Okay? They slammed into a bridge. Everyone was pretty much ejected from the boat. And they had to swim to shore. Anthony was the boyfriend of Mallory. Anthony couldn't find her. Anthony swam down over and over and over trying to find Mallory. He couldn't find her. Paul gets to shore. Connor gets to shore. The two other girls get to shore, and they're all screaming for Mallory. They call 911, and immediately they're taken to the hospital. Paul gets the Randolph Murdaugh and Alex show up at the hospital, and they try to say that Connor Cook was driving the boat, not Paul. So this was the first start of the controversy, and charges didn't come. Like, they didn't investigate Paul for months. Finally, they indicted him for 3 counts of death by a boating accident while drinking and leaving the scene. And he was possession of a weapon because he had a gun. So this happened. Now everyone was pissed because Paul went to court for his arraignment, and he was released on bond. So of course they delayed the trial. and several civil lawsuits were filed against the Murdaugh family, wrongful death or whatever. Paul was just living his life. He was living at a cabin and he was drinking, still having fun, really didn't give a shit. So now Alex was having he was having money problems. He was practicing law at the law firm, but it was found out by one of the people there that $700,000 was missing. And they confronted Alex about it, and he would deny it. And so that was the motivation for the murders, according to the prosecution. Paul was going to go on trial, and there were civil lawsuits, and they're going after their money. And Alex, being a drug addict, there was an incident where he claimed on the side of the road somebody shot him. In reality, he had his cousin come and say, just shoot me so I can say that people are coming after me. And his cousin refused to, so Alex tried to shoot himself, and he grazed himself. He didn't do a lot of damage, but it was very suspicious. And then the night of the murders, he went to allegedly visit his mother, who had dementia. His father was in the hospital, terminally ill. And Maggie, his wife, said he was acting fishy. He apparently told Maggie to go check on the dogs. They had a kennel full of dogs, and they would go hog hunting with the dogs. Paul and Maggie went down to check on the dogs. And allegedly, Alex gets back, and he finds Maggie and Paul dead with their heads blown off. And Alex tried to frame it as people were coming after him for the boating accident, because everyone was upset that Paul wasn't indicted sooner. Paul wasn't in jail. Paul was just living his life. Okay. So that's what it was. And he apparently, they found out he called his wife and asked her to meet him on that hunting lodge. So they found that out. The police found that out. And now they started investigating Alex for this. He's like, well, he told them to go down there. Each had been shot multiple times in the head, wrist, and chest. And Murdaugh claimed at the time of the killings he was with his mother. He was visiting his mother. But unfortunately, cell phone data, including video containing Alex's voice, placed him at the scene before the murders. So SLED got involved. SLED is one of the top law enforcement agencies in South Carolina. South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. They thought Alex was a person of interest from the start. The investigation was heavily criticized by Murdaugh defense attorney Tik Parseghian. He's a legend down south. He's tried many big-time cases. And during the trial, the crime scene was spoiled by rain. So police failed to collect evidence, and family and friends were allowed to walk through the crime scene.
Yeah, that's not good.
So this was in October of 2021. Murdaugh was not arrested until July of 2022, after the Colleton County grand jury issued an indictment charging him with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of possession of a weapon of a violent crime. He shot his wife with a rifle, son with a shotgun. Never found the weapons. Now, the Murdaughs had 1 million guns. The family, because they hunted a lot. They had 1 million guns. They never found the weapons. So the they went for life imprisonment,
Right.
life imprisonment, and they did not seek the death penalty, which they got criticized for. And they were tried together, both murders. So the defense, the big thing was they did not want the prosecution to be able to ask about the financial crimes that Murdaugh had committed. So the judge had two people testify in his chambers without the jury to make his decision. And he made the decision that they were allowed to testify to the financial crimes because it was part of the motive. So it was a mess because, first of all, the first two judges who were on the case had to recuse themselves because they knew the family. During the trial, two jurors had to be dismissed because they got COVID-19. And on February 24th, 2023, during the trial, another charge was filed against Murdaugh for passing contraband in the courtroom.
That's crazy.
Yes. So
What kind of contraband?
I think it was drugs.
Okay.
Because that's what they used. They were trying to say, he was a drug addict. And and believe me, I was a drug addict. And if you spent $700,000 on Oxycontin, you would buy enough for like 10 lifetimes.
That's crazy.
So there's no way that he could have done that. People thought that he was embezzling the money to try to hide it. So during the civil proceedings, that they would none of the families would get any money because he was embezzling it out and trying to hide it.
Crazy.
So that's why he was doing it. And Murdaugh admitted, and this was what killed him during the trial. The trial was going over fine. They called the defendant's son, Buster, to the stand, and he testified that he was his dad was visiting his mother. And then Murdaugh insisted on testifying, which no defense attorney ever wants. He denied shooting his wife and son. He confirmed that he could have been heard taking the video by his son on 844 at the kennels. He admitted that he lied to law officers about whether he had been at the kennels the night of the murder before finding the bodies, and attributed his lies to the paranoid thinking from his addiction to opioids. He also admitted to stealing from legal clients in his firm, and also admitted to asking a relative to shoot him.
$6 million too. He stole.
So the prosecution just went their cross-examination. They didn't have to do much. So the only other witness the defense had was a pathologist who testified that the state had not correctly determined the entrance and exit wounds on Paul's body. And they said that in such high profile cases, the shooter would have been covered in blood and gunshot residue. And he also stated that the evidence was consistent with two shooters being present. So Alex didn't have any of that on him. He wasn't covered in blood. He didn't have they tested him for gunshot residue. He didn't have it. But they believe that was because he committed the murders before leaving to go see his mother and then came back. So closing arguments happened, and this is what's crazy. this was a fairly long trial. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours, and they found Murdaugh guilty on 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of possession of a weapon of a violent crime. And the verdict was on everywhere. It was transmitted live across the United States on all the cable news networks.
Right.
After the verdict was read, Judge Newman denied a motion for the defense for a mistrial, saying the evidence of guilt is overwhelming. He told jurors the circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, and all evidence pointed to one conclusion, and that's the conclusion you all reached. And after his sentencing, after the verdict was read, he was sentenced. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. So after the trial, there was a press conference, and the defense obviously would appeal the verdict. And Murdaugh's older brother, Randy, said he believed that his brother had not told the whole truth about what he knew about the killings, and they filed a appeal with the court. Now, they announced they had new evidence for a new trial, and a press conference was held, and his attorneys alleged that Jim Griffin, an alleged jury, he was tampering with Colleton County, the clerk of the court, Becky Hill, she was someone who released a book, Behind the Doors of Justice, the Murdaugh Murders. And the lawyers requested an evidentiary hearing. So this just happened on October 17th. South Carolina Court of Appeals signed an order granting an order for Murdaugh's motion to suspend his conviction appeal and send the case back to circuit court to consider the allegations of jury tampering, which was huge. And the judge ordered SLED to investigate. So what happened was Hill, the clerk, ended up, I believe she ended up being indicted. Yes. Becky Hill ended up being fired, and she was charged. She was charged with 3 felonies, including misconduct and perjury, based on an independent investigation by SLED. So this is huge for Murdaugh, that he could receive a new trial. But honestly, and you know me, I'm always, someone else could have done it and that.
Yeah.
I think he did. 100% he did this. I think that because he was an addict, he embezzled money. He had civil trials against him for the boat accident against Paul. He was trying to hide money. He was freaking out about that. He was worried about Paul getting convicted and going to jail and the damage that would do to the family. And he wanted the life insurance money.
Sick.
So he killed it. He killed his wife and he killed his son. Now he still has a relationship with Buster Murdaugh, his oldest son, but that's it. So I think that he did it. I think that the power of the family, they tried to control the narrative during the accident Paul had by saying Connor Cook, his friend, was driving the boat, which wasn't true. Right. They tried to say when Murdaugh got to the hospital, he said that he represented everyone there. So he was trying to control all the witnesses from saying that Paul was driving the boat. And I just think he thought they thought they were above the law. They thought they were above the law. Fuck them. And he thought he could get away with this. And, you know, shooting himself, trying to set up that people were coming after him. I think it was all planned.
Oh yeah, he's a piece of shit. This guy.
I think he was desperate. And desperate people do desperate things.
Well,
but I think he's going to get a new trial.
Why though? Why would they give him a new trial? Jury tampering?
Because the clerk was charged with jury tampering and perjury. That, I mean, that's huge for him to be able to get a new trial. Now, I still don't think, because of the notoriety of the case.
Oh yeah, he's still going to jail.
I don't think that there's any way that they would find him innocent. That's my take on it. But it was the biggest trial in South Carolina, the trial of the century. The family, it's sad because they went back generations of being lawyers. Buster Murdaugh, the son of Alex, still completed law school, and you know, is an attorney.
He is.
They had a huge mansion, a tremendous life, and it got flipped upside down because of addiction
and greed,
and the son Paul. They tried to detox Paul from booze. Everyone told him he needed to go to rehab. He refused, and he just drank all the time. He was violent to his girlfriend. They revealed the abuse that he had to one of his girlfriends.
Sick.
Yeah.
Cuckoo, dude.
Well, wealthy people sometimes think they're above the law, think they can do whatever they want, and that's what this fuck did. And
yeah, that's probably true.
If he's granted a new trial, I mean, I'll be mortified. But I still don't think there's any way that he will not be convicted.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that at all.
There's no other I mean, they're trying to say that people came after him because they were angry that Paul had the boating accident and killed Mallory. That was, Alex's theory. That's what he wanted people to believe. That, everyone's coming after us. We've been receiving threats. Paul was getting beat up at school.
Right.
That's what he told the cops. He had a plan from the start from how he was going to spin it.
Jack off.
Yeah. It's fucked up. It's a fucked up deal. It's sad. It's fucked up. And it's a crazy, crazy case. And there's other crimes that were allegedly committed by the Murdaughs that they got away with too. One of them was a nanny who fell down the stairs and died at the house.
What?
Yeah, the Murdaugh nanny. If you look at it, I mean, there's a couple other crimes where people died, and the Murdaughs, like, they can make people disappear. If you look it up, there's 3 or 4 other crimes that they were connected to.
Yeah, it seems like they're just straight up fucking criminals.
Yeah, look at it. I mean, but I don't have time to go into it, but there were a few other crimes they go over in the Netflix series.
Where are they from in South Carolina? Charleston.
It's the Low Country. It doesn't say exactly where. It doesn't say exactly where. Colleton County. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. I have to head off and do the podcast with the animal shelter.
What do you do when you do that?
We do events going on with the animal shelter. Any dogs that want to be adopted, we feature.
That's nice.
Yeah, I try to help out. I like dogs.
Did the dogs like you?
Yes, of course. I want to take them home. So I have to head over there. So
where can I see one of those videos?
They're up. They're on my Facebook page.
Are they?
Yeah. It's called Whisker Wednesdays, and they're on my YouTube as well. So Whisker Wednesdays. So as I said, when life gives you lemons, they'll make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, shove them right up Alex Murdaugh's ass.
Oh wow, I see that video. Wow.